I pierce the skin to take my woes, my fears and sorrows. Persephone, goddess of the underworld, take our pain, our suffering, and descend into the underworld.
My purpose is to lift women up, and witchcraft is a way to do that.
The witch is the rebel, the fighter.
I'm a witch, what are you gonna do?
On the one hand, I'm super excited to learn about witchcraft and really seek to understand it and to re-explore this part of my childhood curiosity that I somehow pushed away. And on the other hand, I am terrified because I don't know if dark magic is gonna be going on, if curses are gonna be involved. I don't know what to expect. I don't know these witches. What am I getting myself into? If you Google the word witch, you'll find this definition: a woman thought to have magic powers, especially evil ones, popularly depicted as wearing a black cloak and pointed hat and flying on a broomstick. Or this second definition, an ugly or unpleasant woman. But based on how long witchcraft has been around, this definition seems to be quite limited and primarily based on Hollywood's interpretation of the witch.
I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog too.
While the witch has become a popular Halloween costume and central archetype in many stories, the spiritual practice of witchcraft is one with a rich history, with many trials and tribulations along the way. In recent years, witchcraft has experienced a surge in popularity with the development of the New Age witch. Bloggers, YouTubers, and Instagram influencers now happily show off their altars, crystals, tarot card spreads, and musings on the latest moon phase. But what's behind the stereotype and stigma of the witch? That's what I wanted to find out. So I went to meet some real witches, including 2 New Age feminist witches and a professional male witch with a deep knowledge of this ancient practice, to learn the truth about witchcraft. Having long, pointy nails is pretty irrelevant to actually being a witch. I just use this as an excuse to get some. I've always wanted to do this. Tap, 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 tap my pointy nails. I grew up in Beverly, Massachusetts, which is the town right next door to Salem, Mass. I just remember having such a natural curiosity about witchcraft and the metaphysical from a young age, but it's something I never followed because of the stigma around it, because I thought people would think I was weird. Today, I'm actually going to experience real witchcraft and allow myself to follow this curiosity that I've always had but sort of pushed away for a long time. So I have honestly no idea what this entails. I have no idea what to expect. I don't know these people. I've only communicated with them over text and calls. So these could be witches that are practicing dark magic and I'm gonna be sacrificed or something. I don't know.
Hello. Nice to meet you.
My journey began with going to see a professional witch named Misuk Dylan, who's been practicing witchcraft for 20 years now. This is what the home of a witch looks like.
Right?
You're ready for Halloween.
Absolutely.
This is your season. You have a broom!
Yes, and the bristles up to keep the spirits away.
Thing with the broom.
Yeah.
Why is that just the biggest thing that people know witches for, like riding on a broom? It's a long story.
Not really. It's more an interesting story. So you would use psychotropic drugs or herbs. You would make a salve out of it, and you would rub it on the end of the broom, and you would put the broom inside of you, and you would fly. So not necessarily riding the broom as in flying, but tripping out.
Wait, what?
Yeah, for real.
Inside?
Inside. You weren't expecting that, were you?
No!
A lot of people weren't.
We're gonna learn a lot today.
Yeah. So I'm Misuk Dylan, and I am a professional witch. My path to witchcraft started at an early age with my love of ancient Egypt and ancient history. All these ancient cultures, they all had this idea or belief in this magic or the supernatural. I started reading about witchcraft, and when I found out that people actually practice witchcraft, it really piqued my interest. It just really resonated with me. These practices, this belief system resonated with me. A large part of it is honoring our ancestors and honoring the spirits of the earth, and earth earth itself. I've always had a strong connection with nature, so I think it was that too.
One of the first questions I had for Dylan was why he calls himself a witch as a male instead of a wizard, which is what I thought the male version of a witch was.
So wizard is actually very fairy tale. I'm sure you've also heard too the word warlock. There are male witches who call themselves warlock. Witch in itself, it's a word that a lot of people are reclaiming, and witch, the root word is wise one. It doesn't necessarily have a gender to it. So there are male witches or female witches.
I'm a witch in training today.
Witch in training.
With Misuk Dylan.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
There we go.
I'm a little bit nervous overall because I have never done anything like this before.
And there are a lot of misconceptions. The biggest misconception about witchcraft, the list goes on, but I would say the one that comes to mind is that we worship the devil, which is not true. The devil is a Judeo-Christian concept. Now, are there witches who are satanic? Absolutely, but witchcraft is a practice.
Witchcraft in its many forms have evolved over the years throughout several cultures. There's brujeria and santeria from Latin America, Haitian voodoo, West African hoodoo, and many more.
Obviously, the moment someone talks about like bones,
Or a voodoo doll
or
sitting
voodoo
over
doll,
there,
they
casually
automatically
on the
think
counter.
black magic. The truth is that magic has no color. And actually the word black magic has a lot of racial connotations to it. For me, I consider myself an eclectic witch. I like to take bits and pieces from different cultures, and I call it cultural borrowing, not cultural appropriation. I think the difference is that if you acknowledge these spiritual beliefs, if you have a passion for them, there's no harm in that. Where the harm comes in cultural appropriation is when you are essentially, it's ignorance,
kind of
or making a profit out of
exploitation.
it or exploiting it. So I practice hoodoo. A lot of people are like, oh, well, you know, that is African and there are all these things and you can't do that because you're white. And I was taught by someone, you know, I really sought out this practice and I studied a lot in New Orleans to kind of gain permission and gain access to these ideas and to this level. I have a passion for those practices. I'm also Cherokee, so I incorporate some of those spiritual elements.
Finally, it was time to practice some magic. First, Misuk Dylan showed me how to make a gris-gris bag, a voodoo practice using specific herbs to set a specific intention.
So the first word we're going to use is very popular. It's called mugwort.
Of course, mugwort.
Mugwort.
Everyone knows mugwort.
Right?
They use that in Harry Potter, right?
Do they really?
I feel
don't
like
know.
that word is a Harry Potter word.
I guess.
J.K. Rowling must have just taken all of her words from witchcraft.
I'm sure. I know that they use mandrake, and mandrake is also
Yes.
used in witchcraft.
Next, we added wormwood and St. John's wort to make a gris-gris bag designed to help promote psychic intuition.
By the power of 3, I awaken this gris-gris bag, so mote it be. And then you would put this under your pillow, and that would help promote dreams.
I've been wanting to dream more.
And boom.
And have more lucid dreams.
Yeah, there we go. And actually drinking mugwort tea or smoking mugwort tea, that helps with lucid dreaming too.
Really? The general origin of modern-day witchcraft in the Western world, specifically Wicca, is mainly derived from Celtic paganism, coming from the Isles of ancient Great Britain.
I think also a lot of people think that witchcraft is this like religion. Wicca is a religion, and Wicca is a closed religion, and they practice witchcraft, but witchcraft in itself is a practice. Wiccans call themselves witches, and they practice witchcraft within their religion. All Wiccans are witches, but not all witches are Wiccan. Wicca came about in the late 50s, 60s by Gerald Gardner, and he essentially took these Celtic practices, formed them around the Wheel of the Year, and formed a religious practice around that. I believe, first and foremost, as long as you harm none, do what you will. So that's part of the Wiccan weed. Even though I'm not a Wiccan, I do take on that aspect of that phrase because it is important to me.
The widespread persecution of witches began in the 1400s with the European witch trials. At the end of the 14th century, the plague known as the Black Death killed nearly 1/3 of the population. Survivors strived to find an explanation, and many pointed their fingers at witches, labeling single women or those who held knowledge of ancient folklore as working for Satan. Hundreds were burned to death and tortured during this time. After the Puritans settled in Massachusetts Bay Colony around 1630, the community would suffer years of hardship to find their way in the New World, including failure of crops, famine, war, a smallpox epidemic, and a mini ice age. Tensions ran high, and the community sought answers. January of 1692 marked the beginning of the famous Salem witch trials. It all started when the daughter of Reverend Samuel Parris, Betty Parris, and her cousin Abigail Williams began having fits. Doctors had no answers, so it was suggested that they must be bewitched. Soon, other girls in Salem Village began having the same afflictions, and the community began to panic. People fear that the devil is loose in Salem and is controlling a secret coven of witches to cause harm. With this, the hysteria heightens, and hundreds of people are accused, arrested, and thrown in jail. By September 1692, just 9 months later, 19 people have been executed by hanging, one man was pressed to death, and several others died in prison. While some did confess to witchcraft, many maintained their innocence.
If you are a practicing witch today, which I think is so amazing, you have survived over 6,000 years of stigma, religious persecution, war, so the witch will always be there.
Next, Dylan showed me the art of bone throwing, a type of divination practice.
These bones are unbelievable. I am picking up a claw.
This is actually a chicken.
This is a chicken's foot. Oh my gosh. So what is bone throwing that we're gonna do?
So bone throwing, it's also known as claromancy, the art of throwing lots. This is more a very New Orleans tradition. And essentially the idea is that every bone has an association. You would ask a question, you would shake, you would throw the bones, and depending on where they land, that reveals your answer.
Should we try it?
Let's do it. Do you have a question?
I wanna ask about money. I just want to know when the money is coming.
What you're gonna do, you're gonna hold the shell, you're gonna blow,
Okay.
you're gonna shake, and then you'll throw. And throw. Good! That's a good throw. First and foremost, you see how this jawbone is facing you?
Yeah.
You can't withhold yourself. You have to be the predator. So look at the gator foot. You have to be the predator and go after what you want. You have a lot of these bones facing each other. Don't be afraid of conflict. You may need to conflict, or you may need to fight in order to achieve what you want. You're afraid to be selfish.
Yeah.
And that's something that you need to do in order to succeed.
That was weirdly so accurate to how I feel
Go.
currently and what's going on, because I am starting to be more predatory in the best way,
Yeah.
I think, with just like going after things.
Absolutely.
And owning my own worth and value and not being afraid to say it.
For you, it's wonderful to be grateful for what you have, but it's also okay to want more. The reason why witchcraft is so integral to my life is because these practices are more than 6,000 years old, and I have such pride in that. I feel like I'm carrying the torch of my ancestors.
After learning so much from Dylan about the history of witchcraft and its uses in different cultures around the world, I also wanted to talk to some new age witches who are putting a modern spin on witchcraft.
I'm super pumped because right now I am on my way to go meet up with the Basic Witches. The Basic Witches are these two really cute millennial girls who have a podcast called The Basic Witches, where they talk about witchcraft, and they have on real pro witches that they interview, and they kind of take witchcraft and put a modern new age spin on it. I would categorize the Basic Witches as sort of LA's Instagram witches. But to me, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because I think they're just using these practices of witchcraft and evolving it in a way that speaks to a younger audience and is interesting to people.
Welcome.
Smells so good in here.
Oh, good. We did Palo Santo and sage.
Okay, good.
Yes.
We all saged up. Your house is amazing.
Thank you.
I love it.
Hey, I'm Leah Knauer.
And I'm Rachel LaForest.
And we are the Basic Witches. I think to be a basic witch is to be embracing your spirituality and divine feminine.
Witchcraft is totally a part of the feminist movement in that it is about accepting femininity, the divine feminine, and embracing it, not shaming any desires, not having to apologize for existing and wanting, all these same ideals as feminism.
Witchcraft has really become a lifestyle, I think, for both of us.
One way I use witchcraft practically is having these little physical reminders of good mental health practices. A crystal, whether I believe it does something or not, is there for me to remind me like, okay, I'm gonna set this on my yoga mat and remember an intention that's gonna help me feel better.
What do you do with the voodoo doll?
The white pin is things that I want to bring in, things I want to manifest, positive things. And then the black is things I want to release. So like doubt, fear. I ding this bowl that tells me to speak my truth, and I use essential oils. I mean, I am a stereotype, but it's more than that. It's also acknowledging darkness and the truth.
Vulnerability, going towards fear to find opportunity and magic. It's genuine for us. Like we take it to heart. We're genuine in the way that we use these things. We're not just dancing around flippantly or to be cute on Instagram. It actually is a practice.
Yeah. It also allows us personally to embrace not giving a fuck and just like doing what we want. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm a witch. What are you gonna do?
For me, what's underneath the stereotype of, yes, I have wings on my back and I burned sage before we started rolling this. What's behind all that is that my absolute sole purpose is to help women.
We're putting ourselves out there, and the return is so great when we meet people that do connect with it and that like it's changed their lives.
Or saved their lives.
The purpose is bigger than us and bigger than the podcast.
Leah and Rachel shared a spell with me for manifesting money. It was during this experience when it started to click that witchcraft is very much just about setting clear intentions through some kind of physical representation and using ceremony or ritual to call into your life that which you desire. After feeling like I had gained a pretty good understanding of witchcraft and its many uses, I was ready to experience a real witch ritual. Dylan is the high priest for a local coven of witches and invited me to experience a ritual for Samhain, the witch's new year, aka Halloween.
Samhain is that liminal time, the time when the veil is thinnest between this world and the next. It is a holiday of new beginnings, also known as a witch's new year. So in this space, we are going to honor Persephone, the goddess of spring, who is now descending to join her husband Hades in the underworld. As she descends into the underworld, she will also take our pain and grief that we've been through this year. She takes all that pain down with her, so we feel lighter in the coming new year.
So we send our pain to Persephone.
Precisely. Witchcraft does involve nature, so we incorporate the elements of nature into our spell work. Even our deities correlate with nature, so Persephone does represent literally the duality between spring and winter.
Let's begin.
Let's begin. We pour in the salt to represent the earth. We pour in water for joy and mirth. Now we light a sacred flame. And with air, we close the circle in Persephone's name. Gods above, gods below, we honor the spirits and the ancestors we used to know. By the powers of earth, air, fire, and water, we summon you and bring you into this circle. We take the sacred fruit, the malum, which represents sin and passion. And with that, we pierce the skin and insert our woes, our sorrows, and our fear.
We pierce the skin to insert our woes, our sorrows, and our fears.
We pierce the skin to insert our woes, our sorrows, and our fears.
We pierce the skin to insert our woes, sorrows, and fears.
Persephone, goddess of the underworld, goddess of the underground, I feel your presence, you are here and abound. As you descend into the world below, we ask that you take our pain, strife, and woe. We honor you in this sacred place. in the sacred grove, in the liminal place between this world and the next. We usher you in and we usher you down. We usher you down into the realm of spirits and ask that you take our pain, our woe, our strife, and our grief. As above, so below, we honor the spirits and those we used to know. Blessed be, so mote it be.
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 The circle is cast and never broken. Merry meet, merry part, and merry meet again. Blessed be.
Blessed be. Wow. That was not what I was expecting.
What were you expecting?
I was expecting it to be so much more dark and scary. This was just a very lovely ritual.
Yeah.
It's all about intention.
Yeah.
It's really all about intention.
Yeah, I already feel lighter, you know?
Right?
That's the idea.
This is why you guys do this.
Yeah.
As someone who loves history and someone who has studied about witchcraft, I've taken on this duty of dispelling that stigma and trying to break that stereotype.
Even though I had some fears along the way, I finally feel like my inner child got a taste of the curiosity I once deprived myself of. This experience has definitely inspired me to incorporate some witchcraft practices into my everyday life and believe in magic just a little bit more.
I've seen how witchcraft works for people and helps people, and it's very healing and very therapeutic. And you know, people have said, well, what if witchcraft is just, you know, it doesn't work? What if it's just a placebo effect? Well, then it's a magical placebo effect.
I want to thank you so much for watching, and remember, you have the power to thrive. You have the power to live your best life ever.